Just don't get too comfortable. Find a way to install the discomfort. That's where all the gold is. Sean, we are now in February. Welcome.
I feel a little taxed today. How about you?
Wait, are you alluding to something that?
It's a tariff joke.
Oh yeah, our poor friends in Canada and Mexico, huh?
Yeah, which I guess there's nothing really happening as of 1:22
Saturday.
Yeah, on Saturday, Central Standard Time. So we'll see how Monday turns out.
Do you think customs agents walk around being like FUBAR?
I mean, you gotta. Well, I don't think they've. My understanding is that there's not been a lot of clear guidance. So I would think that without clear guidance, you would operate in a business as usual mode, correct? Because
yes,
I don't know.
I would want written directives before I change tact in a very
this is
strong way.
Okay, you can say that in a meeting, but here's my procedure, my operating procedure, and my contract says that I need to follow this policy, otherwise I am subject to termination. So update that, then we can talk. I don't know.
Have you worked in one of these places? Like I have experience with where like the founder, true owner of the business is. There's a reason why they are at the top, and a lot of it is due to ideation and creativity and networks and all that kind of stuff. But with that comes a bunch of baggage or a wake in the water or that sort of thing, right? And as the organization grows and gets more professionalized, in comes the COO, in comes the expertise to try to streamline and channel energies in the direction that the business needs to go in as it matures, right? Yeah. And then you end up in this conference room where you are getting told to do two different things by two different people. Then you're like, wait, I know which one outranks which, but I don't know what I'm... Can I get it written down, please? What I'm supposed to do tomorrow? Right? Well, and I feel like there's probably a lot of people in the federal government feeling that way right now.
Yeah, I can only speak from a perspective of having worked in really more mature companies professionally. So we're much more, in the late stage bureaucracy, federal government stage, where I feel like
you're the business you work in is bigger than some governments on Earth.
Yeah. Yes. So we have, just a ginormous policy manual that dictates how we are supposed to perform our activities. Not dictates exactly, provides guidelines and structures. And then we have to, from that central policy at a local level, create local policies to align that in the ways that work with our local business systems and customs and laws and et cetera.
Everything is just a big coordination problem.
At the end of the day. That's why I'm saying, like, if I'm the customs agent, like, I haven't received a new standard work instruction. So you know what? Last time I deviated from my standard work instruction, I got written up. So I'm not doing that. And that's why we have those controls kind of in place, and why as ineffective as they are in a real practical sense of what happens day to day, they do provide a lot of, cover for saying, hey, we taught you to do it this way per this procedure, and you sent the temperature 20 degrees too high and scrapped this product. It gives you
XYZ and money.
Yeah, it gives you the tool for making sure that people do it the way that it's supposed to. So then, but the problem is, if you want to change the definition of what it's supposed to be,
it's moving a big boat. Yeah,
heaven help you. Heaven help you.
So. Well, I think this draws upon a distinction that has been made. I don't know where I got it. It's wartime CEO versus peacetime CEO, and I think there's a direct corollary between almost like peacetime or like professional general versus a General Patton or General MacArthur. Both those generals probably would be fired under peacetime quickly. They wouldn't have even made it to general.
Yeah,
but under wartime, they needed that creativity, the spunk, the leadership, the drive towards into the unknown. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Because Peacetime, generally, you're kind of getting the troops ready and prepared and just maintaining status. Well, but then
Well,
when
you're mostly measuring for not messing up
yeah,
versus like times are unknown or bleak or whatever, and the risk tolerance band widens out quite considerably, something like that.
yeah, I can see that. I'm trying to think of other famous generals I know, and I can't. Not like I'm having a hard time pulling names out of the air. So I'm gonna just sit here and nod along, and be like, yeah, generals. All right.
Well, okay, so it doesn't need to be generals. So think about the particular CEOs, right? Like a Bill Gates versus Palmer,
Okay.
a
Yes.
a Bezos versus Jassy. I don't know, like and then a lot of this has to do with like founders versus professional CEOs too. I guess that's the distinction I'm drawing upon here.
I understand what you mean.
Pichai is very different than Larry Page.
Because they're just trying to not screw up the thing that's already existing before them, right?
That's what makes Satya Nadella so incredible. That's what makes Satya Nadella so incredible.
Yeah, I know, right? I think he's been
bucked the trend.
Yeah, I think he's been good for them.
Incredibly so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that video you sent me regarding Gumloop.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes because I thought it was an interesting watch. But it reminded me so much of Microsoft's Power Automate with a little prettier user interface and basically a chatbot layer on it to help you use it. Like Microsoft's not that far off from that, I don't think.
That's cool.
If they don't already have it. Like I haven't been in Power Automate in 6 months, and I'm like, after watching that, I'm like, I need to go back in because if I can now use Copilot and do this at work, then I can actually, robo position. Like, I mean, I was like,
you're sitting there thinking like, I've always thought I'd be able to like use an executive assistant, but now you could actually probably have one or get close to one.
Exactly. Or also like go and talk to like the engineering team where half their day is this really mundane maintenance work of like the database system. And it's just, we have a new part number. We have to go get all the fields matching the right thing. We got to go do all these boxes, and it's very programmatic. We have it scripted in many ways where it's down to a handful of clicks in certain instances, but it still could be where it just happens. Like they don't even need to intervene because all the information exists. They're just making sure it's getting transferred from one system appropriately into another.
Yep.
And that's, 10-20% of their job. So if we could come up with a way to like automate that out and say, hey, I just gave you 20% of your work week back. Let's take on a new project. That would be really awesome.
It would be. Yeah.
So it's been getting,
we are 2025, man. It's going to be a ride. It already is.
It started off definitely on a pivot, right?
If you have your ear to the ground, I think most people still are just like ostriches in the sand or whatever. But, and I don't mean that in a bad, like most people are just living their lives. But for those that have their ear to the ground, it is hard not to see a drastically different future in the very near term, not like 20 years away.
And you know what it's inspired me to think about doing a lot this year? Oddly enough, is some home improvements. I figure why not go ahead and spend some cash and reload for 2026 because I feel like it's going to be just wild. That's where my head's kind of at in terms of seeing how everybody's.
So you're
reacting.
taking chips off the table for 2025.
Yeah, there's been stuff I've been wanting to do. I'm like, I'm kind of wanting to get defensive. Why not go ahead and just do some stuff that I've been wanting to do anyway? And
yes,
invest in some
yourself.
Joy.
Yeah, some joy. Yeah.
So I think that's
just don't get too comfortable.
No.
Find a way to install the discomfort. That's where all the gold is.
Yes. No. Absolutely no. But I just it's one of those things like this might be a good year to actually just get a few things done that we've been kind of putting off.
Cool.
So
I think that's cool. You and I were also discussing a bit of a a pivot or shift or new tangent that we would both like to go in for
Yes.
2025.
Yes. Which was what are we going to do with our focus here, essentially, correct?
On this podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not just the podcast, but kind of like, yeah, our the sharing that we do.
Yes.
Right now it's just the podcast, but like if we were to, put a bow on this project a little bit, then it would include a website, probably a bit of a blog to get a bit of summaries going that are more I don't know, descriptive than show notes, and yeah, just having like the actual real estate on the internet for us, I think would be good.
For me, it's I want to develop some new skills around around how to use all these tools that are coming out. I want to be relevant in 5 years still in the workforce, and I think learning how to use these AI tools is a good way to do that. And for me, like building like a little website for unqualified advice, and again, like other content we create and share. Like I have a blog that I occasionally post to, and maybe somehow putting that feed in the stream, so to speak, and kind of having a channel, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Or even if you don't wrap it up into the same thing, like I think when you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, I was like, our social profiles, or it doesn't need to be wrapped up into this thing. It can still be about us. And even us as individuals can have separate properties in different places, but like having a more professional, going back to like professionals versus, or like the professionalism that gets you from one to something versus the creativity and sort of insanity that gets you from 0 to 1. I think we've done a good job of having fun with 0 to 1, and now we need to like push on that ceiling a bit more.
Yes.
And going back to like you were mentioning your writing and Substack, you could keep that whole channel open. It could be completely, I want it to be a process. I want something to like,
okay,
like I'm thinking of a sort of a back end for us where you were mentioning like, maybe we get a text message or email that says like, what are 3 things that you've consumed this week that were good? What blah blah blah, and that way we sort of like get ideas down and written and saved in a place that can help generate more ideas for us to talk about. Same thing, I'm thinking about these sort of engines of capture and creativity, and to help spawn the writings that you want to keep up with and do and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I dig that. I guess I was thinking in that question from a different angle, but yeah, exactly. It sounds to me like a fun goal to try to grow kind of an audience for the content we're creating in the skills that are required to do so. We can, I think, build some pretty cool stuff online that's kind of fun and showing how we're tracking and going about doing that. That also, those skills apply in so many other places. It's where I can see that, if I could, show a future employer that I can do this here, then it's like, see, I can come in and do that for you as well, or hopefully then take those skills to my workplace.
Give you ideas.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's a way to, for me, it's a way to scratch a creative itch that is
exploratory.
Yeah, that is kind of fun. Building something. And again, also, it's like you said, a tool to help us kind of drive this action and help hold ourselves accountable, which was the idea behind that, weekly blast email of, what's on your mind? How'd you progress towards your goals?
I'm frankly really impressed that we basically every single time we sit down, we get somewhere with what we want to talk about, even when we both start off going like, well, what are we going to talk about? I think it's wonderful. I really do.
Yeah. Well, it took us a while to go back to this. We started recording like, we want to talk about this, and then somehow a joke turned into a tangent, and then it took us 5 minutes to get back beautiful. Here. 10 minutes. It takes
15 minutes to get to where we wanted to
start. It's a good hobby. It gives me joy. It's a fun outlet. It's good therapy. I don't know. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things.
Well, let's get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty. So, like, just this morning, you've been playing around with Cursor.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Are there any things that have popped out to you? Different things that you're changing about your process? Are you just like blowing stuff up and starting over again? How do you feel about how it's going?
Yeah. So I probably spent trying to just kind of build an initial like layout for what I didn't really know what I was starting at the time, so I kind of didn't have a plan. I was just like, let me understand how to get a page up, and then I was like, okay, now that I have this basic, canvas up, let me say, okay, what if I want to make this a web page for the podcast, and how would I do that? And started to try to incorporate some different things and different ideas, but I had started from kind of a had a little bit of a framework already in place and was trying to then build into it. Yeah. And so I just, after, I don't know, 4 or 6 hours of plunking away at that, not getting it to quite do what I want, and having just a number of technical difficulties with things that I didn't quite understand. But as I queried the AI assistant about it, I don't know which one I was using at the time. I think it was probably Claude. I don't know. I was like, I think maybe the fundamental building blocks of the way this initial site was structured are wrong for what I want to do. So I blew it up, just threw it all in a folder, said I can come back to you if I ever need you, but I don't think I'm ever going to need you, and create a new folder.
Yeah.
And just all that's in it are right now are 2 markdown files, a to-do and a readme. And I start off with a very basic description of what I wanted in the to-do and readme, and I've built them out to several hundred lines at, I think, 300 lines in the to-do, and at least, and a readme kind of like detailing like all the different pages that I want independently, and then what they do and how they interact. And I'm trying to basically build the framework of the query, the initial query. What I'm trying to do is build everything of the initial query that I want to say, okay, Claude, here's my idea for a website, or, Cursor, here's my idea for a website. How do I start? What do I build?
Yeah.
And let it help me even get started from that front. So
you are going to love Unit 4.
Okay.
You really are. Dear listeners, Sean is skipping ahead, not because he is flipping through the pages faster than everyone else. He's literally coming up with solutions ahead of time. So he's off to the races here. And just a little bit of tightening up on or a little bit of illumination, I think, is just going to spawn more from you. It's really cool.
Okay. Well, my plan is this afternoon after we get off to sit here and try to kind of at least save this draft of the to-do, maybe make a backup of it, but kind of start actually working on attacking it and seeing how far I can get.
Okay. The one thing if you're going to play more this afternoon, I'm going to say, go ask about using cursor rules, and then create one more file and call it .cursor rules.
Hold on. I'm making a note on this. Give me 1 second. Because I don't want to forget this, because I will. All right, cursor rules.
Yep. So you want to implement some cursor rules. This is something to play with in addition to your README, right? These are going to be, your README is going to be your PRD or roadmap.
Okay.
And then the cursor rules is going to be the constraints that are sort of given to the AI coder assistant every single time. So do you want all the code commented out? Do you want to always use this particular framework and not that framework? Or do you always want this sort of spacing used? Or, you know what I mean? The nitty gritty, keeping the AI
consistency between
inside of these bounds.
That makes so much sense with how my playing with
getting out of bounds you've probably been.
I was gonna say with playing with GPT on trying to get image generation, right, for cover art.
Yes.
I find that if I lose specificity or lose context on a specific detail, in a follow-up, it slightly changes. It's no, we lost that. You have to keep I need that border to be 10 by 10 or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I told you that last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
So when you're implementing these rules, you're going to create a file. It's going to be .cursor rules in the root directory of your project. And then open up your web browser and go to cursor.directory. And there's going to be a whole crap load of examples of cursor rules. For different disciplines or different technologies, right? Whether that's iOS development or React apps or Supabase, you name it. someone's written some rules. And so you can kind of copy and paste what you need, and then go through the entire rule set and delete what is irrelevant to your project. Yeah. And then you've got your to-do, you've got your readme, and you've got your cursor rules. You're basically off to the races at that point.
Okay, excellent. Is that a tip from Unit 4, or is that where does that come from?
It is in Unit 4, yeah.
Okay, all right. I might just go ahead and take a poke at some of those videos here this afternoon before I sit down. Like, it's not, there's all the videos in it are probably only 45 minutes, an hour.
Or wait,
or no, they've not
four.
Get longer.
This is Unit 5, the capstone. Unit 5 is much longer, considerably longer.
Yeah. Okay,
way more complicated. That's a good thing. Like, it's got all the things that I'm looking to put into the thing I want to build. So yeah, I'm only 4 videos in, and there's lots to go. So
awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I've just been enjoying playing with it. I upgraded to Pro on Cursor pretty quickly because I burned through the initial credits.
Yes.
And now I'm like,
especially when you don't know what you're doing.
And I'm like, is the $20 a month level going to be enough, or am I going to need to go to 40? Please take my money if so.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. However, I have now signed up for enough tools where I'm like, I need these things to start making me money. It's all fun and games, but now I at least need to cover my costs.
No, absolutely. Well, yeah, I don't mind. I'll happily pay for $20 a month for Cursor for indefinitely for as long as I'm playing with it. Just as a little toy. It's fun. Yeah. It's a fun toy enough. I pay that for, honestly, for like Xbox Live or something. I pay more for that, and
how much is
less.
That?
Some months, so most months, any months. But yeah, like what are some examples of other things that you've ended up kind of signing up for? Any things you would avoid or say don't bother wasting your time with, or I did and I got out of it?
Well, I have been exploring possible competitors, so I want to see how they're doing it, what weaknesses they may have. I'm kind of like probing around. So that costs a good deal. It's easy to drop, or it's easy to spend. All of a sudden, $250 is kind of blown up.
Say you can spend $300 a day pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick. What else? There are other things that I've played with that I haven't committed to. There was one that came across my radar, I think just through Googling, called Mindsera, MINDSERA.com.
Okay,
and it's like a AI journaling app. And the reason I was Googling it is also competitors. I was thinking like maybe I could build something like that. And I wanted to see what else was out there. Moral of the story, there's lots of competitors already. But Mindsera seems to... I haven't played with many of the others yet. But anyway, I think it's interesting because you could use it as like morning pages or daily diary sort of thing.
Okay.
And then it is aiming to get insights out of it for you. I think the practice of writing every single day like that is by itself completely amazing for your brain and your mental health. But if that journal could go back and talk to you and say like, here are some Stoic principles that have helped others and may help you based on what you wrote, or here is a CBT technique that helps people catastrophize less, or any number of things like that. I mean, it's edging close, and it's like close. It's not therapy, but it's close to. It's handing you tools, which I think is just kind of incredible. And then you can also. These are premium features that I haven't really played with, but you're supposedly be able to like chat with your journal. So imagine that you've got 2 years of journal in this app. You could just chat with it. Like, okay, who was I on June of 2023, right?
And can you enter all this like auditory, like over audio, or do you have to type it out?
If you pay, you can talk to it and then it'll transcribe. The free version, I think, it's type only.
Okay. I'm sorry. What was it called again?
Mindsera, MINDSERA, I believe. So anyway, it's just kind of poking around, trying to see where I might insert myself,
Yeah, why not, right? like that, what you said, like, it sounds really interesting because, like it actually was exactly very much something I've been wanting this week. I was during my commute. I had a couple days where I just had like all these thoughts. And it's like, oh, I need to write that down when I get to work. Write that down when I get to work. Write that down when I get to work. And by the time I got there, I got like two of them, and then like people were in my office, and like I was like, oh, I didn't get to those other things. Like if I had an AI tool that I could transcribe that to, and then put it into my workflow, a little commute buddy, for lack of a better term.
That's part of it. And I think the magic with AI here is, well, I mean, the leveling up magic is really incredible. The like questioning you, getting more details out of you, and then giving you helpful advice and tips.
Yeah. Like I don't necessarily, I pulled up mine, so I don't necessarily want the mental health aspect quite as much, but I mean, I guess that's not a bad thing, but
I don't think it's a bad thing. But like being able to take unstructured, just like I've thrown words at you and like make them into something for later. That's pretty cool, because there's a lot of unstructured data in my life, and I'm looking forward to more of it being structured. I think I could really, capitalize on things more.
I mean, life is just unstructured data mostly.
Yeah.
It's what do you do with it?
Well, I think that's why some people
drowning
go further than others.
So, so if we're taking this baby in a direction of kind of building these things out and seeing what we do along with that, what does that mean to you?
Wait, what does what mean to me?
Well, like, I mean, so like we're talking about, we're talking about like kind of pivoting, not pivoting, but like taking the focus of what we're doing here into kind of building in public, right?
Yes.
So is it, we'd also talked about wanting to talk about branding and creating something central around that. So are there any of those discussions you want to have here on air? Or,
we can do it on air. And I will start with saying that like I have deep concerns and not much direction to apply to our branding or messaging, because I kind of like our exploratory, like who knows where it goes.
Yeah.
It's really hard to let that go. But every single piece of advice would tell you that you need to focus on your message and sort of like get that message / all tangential messages and stick with it rather than like jump around.
I think there's truth to that, because we do have a lot of areas we've covered and talked about, and I think things that are interesting, but I do think that being more centrally focused and themed, I think is not a bad idea. But then is it adding specific elements into these discussions every week, or sharing certain things, or is it setting some goals for a specific project that we can talk about how we did that, and people can then go to the website and see the results type of thing. There's probably no good answer or right answer, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I ended up concluding, was like there's no right answer, just because like the path, the fastest to travel path includes honing a message and staying on message. Doesn't mean that that's the path we need to take. Maybe we have an extremely broad and curious message, and we want to stick with that and not be beholden to being narrowed down. And because of that, our build will be harder and longer, but our souls will be more fed.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with that. I like that. Also, I was going to say, I was thinking too, Mr. Beast's advice, make 100 episodes and come talk to me. So, yes. We're only at, 22, 23 right now.
Okay.
So, we're
2025,
still,
we're coming for you.
I think it's okay to still be in exploratory mode at this point and develop, and maybe it always is an exploratory mode. And that's what the point of the podcast is. It's we're exploring, and that's why we are continually giving unqualified advice. We're exploring new areas, and we are not experts in these things, but we're exploring them with, you, our listeners and viewers,
trying to be out front.
Yeah.
And encouraging others to be out front. You don't even have to follow us.
I'm not even being out
Be
front,
upfront.
but at least just trying new things. I mean,
I feel like that's being out front. You can only compete against yourself, right? So I'm not trying to be like,
Okay.
well, Elon Musk is
great,
already
yeah.
there, so no one is actually out front anymore. No. We all have our own things.
Okay.
And I want you, Mr. Individual, to push yourself, be out front for yourself, right? I don't know. That's how I feel.
I like it. I see what you mean. I like that definition of out front better than my definition of out front, to be quite frank.
Okay.
As a note, I've been using not Cursor, Obsidian. I'm exclusively in Obsidian now. Have you been having any experience with it?
Not really.
No.
I'm still just completely disorganized. More and more, I want like an AI just to like look at my computer and be like, "Oh, here, I organized everything for you." Look at every file. I don't care. Like, just organize me. My work and personal life are so disjointed and competing. I don't know how I always get lost trying to organize myself.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? It's like you're getting lost in just the organization part.
All right. Should we pivot to like another arena?
I think so.
Well, here, let's discuss this one. Nietzsche describes 3 modern vices. 1, overwork. To be constantly busy is self-negation. It betrays a will to forget oneself. 2, curiosity. Vague curiosity about everything without deep obsessions goes nowhere. Sympathy. Sympathy for all equals a refusal to rank good and bad. I thought that was provocative and interesting, so that's why I wrote it down.
I like this framework. And all right, so point number 2 immediately takes my mind back to Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman, and talking about as we got as modern society came around and had the ability to send teletypes and pass just written messages. That's great, but what does a man in Texas need to know of a man of a man in Denver's life? Like it doesn't give you any information. You might be curious, but you can't do anything with that information. You see these things and hear people, talking about them, and you spend mental energy to go find out what's going on, and then you realize, I don't care about that, or that's a waste of my time, or
those thoughts don't even occur to you.
Yeah,
you're just beaming photons into your eyeballs, and that's it. Then the dopamine drip.
Yeah. So that one definitely resonated me right away. I think without deep obsession goes nowhere. Vague curiosity without deep obsession goes nowhere. So yeah, you can't be deeply obsessed about everything, right? So you have to selectively curate your interests, I suppose, and spend the time dedicating some time to actually explore those interests. How do you solve this modern vice, or how do you prevent yourself from suffering from this modern vice?
Yeah, cultivate interests and try. I think this is where like you're supposed to be like vaguely curious when you're young, right? Everything you can be curious about everything, but then you should be honing that in as you travel down the timeline. And then I feel like there's like
he's not saying don't have curiosity. He's saying vague curiosity about everything.
No, he wants you to have
lack
deep curiosity,
of any obsessions. Like
I think curiosity.
Yeah, it's about having the duality of your right brain and your left brain. Your right brain perceiving everything, your left brain getting focused. Right. I might be flipping those two around. Apologies if I am, Dr. McGilchrist. But
if you're listening.
Or Tom Morgan, if you're listening.
Yeah.
I have a better chance at that one, maybe.
That is a better chance, yeah. I sat next to him on a bus once.
Yeah, but so you have, one side of your brain that's there to help focus on everything and be generally aware of yourself, of your place in the surroundings. And you have another side of your brain that's there to focus and try to rationally make sure that everything is, working in a little bit better and communicating correctly. And I'm not summarizing this at all correctly or well. But you can have one side of the brain kind of get over dominant in different ways, and that can lead to different good things or bad things depending upon what happens. So if you go completely just looking at outer space or just being vaguely curious without ever focusing on anything, like I think in Nietzsche's sense here, it's kind of unfulfilling, but in like a more biological and survival sense, that's what could get you killed, because you're actually paying attention to the dangers. That's how you get whacked. So I don't know.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. There's so many things that are of our modern life that are against our evolution. That's just one of many.
That's why I love exploring some of the way our minds work, and how they've evolved. It's helped me feel, I don't know, it's helped me change my perception in some ways and feel better about not beating myself up as much about shit as I used to. For what it's worth.
Because it's like, oh no, I was built this way, but my world is another way.
Yeah. And also then not getting sucked into the certain loops that I'm like, oh shit, this is just a loop.
Yeah. And I always go back to like the knowledge is power thing. It's like the evolutionary biology stuff makes me more and more inoculated against the things that are constantly crashing upon my shore, if you will. Right. It's not perfect, but it's better than not knowing. The only other thing I was going to add is like this. I feel like a particular pushback, especially if you don't think about this deeply, the vague curiosity about everything without deep obsessions goes nowhere. And it's like, well, shouldn't you be curious about all the people you meet? And I'll be like, yes, affirmative. But that's not vague. That is a deep obsession with the curiosity of the people around you.
Vague curiosity is being kind of curious about everybody on the internet that you're never actually going to meet or interact with, but you see a little text line with AI bot 3483 and you care what it says. Like that's a vague curiosity about everything that's not healthy.
Well put. Yeah. All right. Which one do you want to attack next? Overwork or Sympathy?
Let's save Sympathy. I think that one deserves to be last.
Okay. Overwork. To be constantly busy is self-negation. It betrays a will to forget oneself. So this is like avoidance, to be unable to sit with oneself, to be so afraid of your own mind that you can't be with oneself.
I would also say it's the you are not your emotions. And when you're constantly busy, you are constantly
avoiding,
under surge or under attack of your emotions. Like being, in some sense, I think busy is an emotion. You get wrapped up in that emotion, and I think it's addictive. Like for some people, it's addictive.
Oh,
and like they get dopamine from that in a way or something that. So being
some sort of satisfaction,
yeah, like they're seeking that constant busyness. But the problem is then that they don't realize they have other emotions too, right? And so they can't forget that part of themselves, and then see the others outside of it.
Or they're being busy because they believe that they are in service of others, when in fact that constituency that they are trying to serve would rather have them, not their busyness.
Yeah, or rather have that person take time for themselves. And
indeed.
And hey, you helped me, but like
but you need to go sit in the sauna for 20 minutes and just
you need a haircut. You need I think that's what Queer Eye is all about, right? And on some episodes, if you've ever seen that show, like they have there's certain people they go with it, or who are that work very hard and do a very poor job of taking care of themselves in a lot of situations.
So true.
Yeah, no, but who knew? Nietzsche would have got me to Queer Eye. I didn't see that one coming this morning when I woke up.
Didn't see that one coming either. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, Sympathy, you ready?
Yeah, Sympathy.
I mean, this is like you at first you were like, is it Nietzsche? And then you're like, oh, it's definitely Nietzsche.
So sympathy for all equals a refusal to rank good and bad. Yes. And also, is it sympathy or is it empathy? I guess.
No, I think empathy is trying to like understand the other, whereas sympathy is feeling bad for the other.
Yeah.
And that could be good because at times people deserve sympathy, but often I feel like it is not what the person you're giving sympathy to even desires.
So this is very true. I saw this week, Dan.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about that more, or is that off limits?
I'll talk about it. I don't know if I'll leave it in. I'll talk about it though.
Yeah, okay.
So unfortunately this week at where I work, we've been going through some organizational changes, which means that there are some people that used to be employed with us that no longer are.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes I have to be involved in some decisions. And this quote, sympathy for all is a refusal to rank good and bad, is, I think, very true, because, as managers, when you sit around and have conversations and you're trying to understand what you're doing, you'll say something and somebody like surprised, oh, that name, that person. And it's like, yes, you're saying that because you're sympathetic to their situation. You see them as a person. And I have to sit here and say, I'm looking 6-12 months down the line. What do I need this team to develop into? And what are the building blocks I need? Because we're not going to be fully structured now. So what are the building blocks I'm going to have to rebuild to get to that point? And so I think Nietzsche's is spot on here. I don't have anything better to say about it than that, I think.
Okay.
And also I think telling everybody on their team that they're great and they're equal constantly is also a disservice and an unkindness. I think there is kindness and honesty in saying, hey, so-and-so is the best on the team at this, and I need you to go take a class and get better at that. Or you don't have to call them specifically terrible or be mean about it, but you can let them know that there are levels of performance and ability, and
it brings the whole team down.
Yeah. So
it really does.
Yeah.
Like if you want to keep your top performers, then you cannot abide by poor performers.
You cannot.
And here I think is like a very similar, he's trying to say similar things. It's like, it's the world of equality doesn't exist, and it never has, and it never will. There will be differences. And frankly, we should probably spend a lot of time celebrating those differences, because that's what makes the world a beautiful place. But when it comes to measuring a person's ability to execute whatever, whether that is the pole vault or a memo, there are distinctions, and people are better than others. And we should try to elevate the ones that do better at the things that they perform well at, and find space for the people who are doing something that maybe they don't perform great at, but create space, room, and like experimentation or whatever to get them towards something that they might perform better at.
Yeah.
I
think that's right. So sympathy being a vice, because his argument here is that overwork, curiosity, and sympathy are the three vices of modern life. And
the vice is not having to tell the truth.
I dig. Like I feel you look on social media and you see a lot of people who are, posting productivity porn, and trying
Hustle
to say
culture.
how busy they are, and being always on top and always
and you're
on the
poor
go.
because you're not busy.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I mean, some of them
exactly.
get toxic like that. Yeah.
Or saying, oh, you need to be, always looking at what's going on social media and being, aware of the latest thing. And I think also we saw this playing out in the last several years, sympathy, trying to be overly sympathetic for everybody, not saying, hey, they're a real person. Sure. Great. But they also are a mugger, and we need to be able to have degradations
around that. Yes.
Yeah. So I can see these elements playing out. Not in everybody, I'm just saying, like, you see them happening a lot on social media, specifically.
Well, that is the playground for toxicity.
Open up or something. You'll figure it out in a few seconds. I don't know. No, that was good. I'm glad that caught your eye. I did not expect that to resonate with me when I first glanced at it. I was like, okay. But then I was like, oh, actually, this is spot on. I don't know why I'm surprised. You've been coming in hot with Nietzsche and Young lately, so
Nietzsche and Young. Well, wait for it. There's going to be some Machiavelli coming too.
Oh, are you reading The Prince or something? What's going on?
I'm going to reread The Prince
Ah,
after I finish this book called The Machiavellians.
okay.
Machiavellians.
What's
I just
inspiring
picked it
that?
up. Andreessen, for
Okay.
better or worse.
Well,
Um,
excellent.
he recommended it. So there's 2 books I got from him. This one, Public Truths and Public Lies. So it's like preference falsification,
Okay.
which I think we've seen a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
People hiding their actual views from one another. And
Yep.
then this book, this professor is, I think he's at Duke, and that's what his research is on. It's like what happens to societies when that particular behavior gets too big. We're always going to hide certain things about ourselves, right? But like when it becomes way too popular or normalized to like toe the party line or hide your true preferences, what happens to like society, countries, whatever? I think that's an interesting question that I don't know anything about and want to read the book. And then the Machiavellians, I don't know, it's like political freedom or something like that. I don't know. I'm wondering if I'm going to like have a hard time getting through it, but I was curious. So I went ahead and bought it. While we're on books, this one I want you to read. I desperately want you to read it.
Oh, okay. What is it?
It's called Boom by Bern Hobart.
I have that's been on my radar. Boom by
Very
Bern
good.
Hobart has been on my radar. He writes the diff,
good.
right?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Yes.
Made me think about things completely differently and going back like radical, like this year I'm doing radical acceptance and aspiring optimism. Optimism right there, even in the face of chaos, right? And uncertainty. It's like optimism. I'm just really digging it because it's basically saying booms in the economy. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not just economy. Booms generally, whether that's like the hive mind or the economy or some other thing. Booms are part and parcel with innovation. If we are advancing, we will have booms, and booms are good, even though it can leave a path of destruction behind. The booms built out all the fiber optic cable in the country, and then most of it was dark, unused until 20 years later. It was like super important that all that stuff had already been laid. The United States has some of the best freight rail on the face of the planet because of railroad booms. All the railroads basically went bust all at the same time because of overbuilding. The Manhattan Project was a boom.
Yeah, it was.
And then there are like follow-on booms. So the Manhattan Project creates the Apollo Project, right? And so he spins these tales and paints this picture through history, and I think it's super fascinating. I've really been enjoying listening to it, and it's not terribly long. I've been listening to it and then kind of like going back and like.
I already put it in my queue in my library, so I've acquired it. It will be consumed. Is all I can say.
That one I'm excited for.
Okay.
The other two, I feel like I'm a self-assigned homework. I'm like, I don't. Andreessen went like so. His pivot was
so hard that you just felt like compelled.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to understand more. That's all.
I understand.
And I felt like those are the 2 books that. Yeah.
I mean, that's also why I kind of wanted to do Starve an Individual, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
Have you finished it? Are you halfway done? 60%?
I've been listening to it, and I think I have 2 hours and something left.
I'm
out of what?
close.
18
I'm mentally I'm about
150%
done with it, and I may. You know what? Next time, let's make a point to just wherever we're at, we're gonna give our final thoughts and be done with it. I want to be because I'm also because I can't take it. I'm mixing in 2 other things at the same time, and
so, yeah, okay. So next time we talk, next time we record, let's just do it. Let's get it out. Otherwise, I don't. We're both doing ourselves a disservice by delaying it.
Because like I've been working in Super Communicators, which is I'm really digging so far.
Charles Duhigg, right?
Yeah, Charles Duhigg. And then Abduction by John E. Mack, medical doctor, following up on the heels of our discussion around the telepathy tapes. I listened to Tom Morgan on Bill Brewster, and he went off on his getting in the fascination of abductions. And it's ironic because the guy, somebody who I recommended the telepathy tapes to, recommended this book to me about abductions. So I took it as a sign, and I'm working my way through that. And it is a fascinating overlap. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
And this is a medical doctor from where?
Harvard.
What time frame was this book written in?
He's interviewing people in the book in the mid 90s, and I had a 25th anniversary, I think like late 90s when it was released, early 2000s.
Wow. Okay. So it was before like internet, easy cameras.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And a lot of the experiences are dating back to the 70s because he's interviewing people from, different age groups. So it's kind of covering a range of experiences of, according to the book, he's interviewed hundreds of people who claim to have had abduction experiences, and he's doing hypnotic regression with them to kind of go back and understand the experiences. And he's the book is a collection of case studies of specific stories, and it's interesting to see the similarities and subtle differences between them, and also, again, how it relates to the telepathy tapes. I'm not positive, but I'm thinking it's basically there's eventually going to be a case study exploring that level of consciousness. I think I'm not positive, but yeah, there's a lot of telepathic communication going on so far in the first 3-4 case studies I've gotten through. And if you're into that sort of thing, and if you like the X-Files growing up, or you ever listened to Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell or George Norrie, you might check it out. Otherwise, probably just leave it to me. I'll give that a qualified review so far.
Well, I think the other thing is this is such a did you buy it? Or I mean, it's like very freely available via
free
PDF.
On Spotify. No, I didn't have to pay a penny for it. It's free on Spotify. You did
mention that to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like,
which actually you can get a lot of audiobooks free on Spotify for you audiobook listeners out there. If you have a Spotify account, don't sleep on that. If you are out of Audible credits,
search there first to see if it's just free. I was just thinking that since it's very available via PDF, I'm going to download it, upload it to a specific GPT, and then go on a walk and just ask it questions.
Well, now that's interesting. That sounds like a fun way to do that. You say a specific GPT. Do you not want to tell us which GPT that is?
No. I mean, like making one that does just like you upload the PDF, and that's like basically it doesn't. That's not all it knows, but it knows that is in the context window the entire time.
I got you. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So like the projects in
like projects. Yeah.
In ChatGPT. Okay.
Something like that. I don't know if I'm using it totally right, but like that's what I would do. I'm
learning all about context and how to keep things in the space of when you're trying to get these tools to do something. You have to we're coming back to this, but you have to, keep that fresh in its mind. It has a great reasoning capability, but not a great memory. Is I guess the way
memory is a big problem. That's going to be I hope that's like the next big leap. Because if your context window could be like years long, right?
Yeah. And I'm
amazing.
I wonder how much data you need for the type of context window you're talking about too. Like because it's not as though I need it to be HD video, right?
No. Yeah.
Like the data set itself of the context is actually relatively small, probably only a gig or two. So how, like, could you somehow hack a context window of your own that is like building up this, like, here's my ongoing reference database of things I want you to think about in this project, and just have that slowly building as you're continuing to use your application that you build on it. It's building that context window in the background, and then always referencing it. Or you can say, hey, check the context window for that. I don't know
enough. That's
well, no, I'm just saying, couldn't you just do that right now? Like, I don't know why like I'm thinking about how you would do it with like the tools we're seeing in like Cursor, even that gum loop thing. Looking at how that operated and would loop out and spit out information into data files.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've built this prompt and you're reusing the prompt over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I guess it's not really the same as context.
No, different than context. Like that's fine. It's actually a whole heck of a lot cheaper to just have a new chat entered every single time with a 4-page long prompt in order to get what I want, right? Versus the like, I've uploaded a book and I've had 18 conversations with this book, and I would like to continue having more without it completely shitting the bed and not having context anymore, right? Because I wanted to retain my interrogation of that material or something.
Yeah. And how it processed what it said about it. That's interesting. Because why isn't that just a list of your questions? You know what I mean? Which again isn't very much space, but it's like just building a
well, then you've just got like a one-sided conversation, right? Like the AI, it's not just because the answers were generated by AI doesn't mean they were of no conversational worth, right?
Yeah, and like it needs to understand the logic at which it arose that answer for the follow-up question, right? It's about maintaining the logic tree to how it answered the question. So if you ask a follow-up, then it can say, oh, well, yes, you know, I interpret it that way. And then if we think about it, it needs to understand that logic tree, I guess, in some way. I don't know. I'm making wild guesses here and talking about things I have no right to talk about.
Within 3 months, I think we will know more.
Yeah,
because we will have experienced it. It won't be like in a white paper.
That's true. That's true. So, yeah. Later this
All right,
afternoon,
Sean.
I might know more.
Yeah, you are going to know more. Yeah, I'm excited for your afternoon. Sounds fun.
Yeah. Jamie's out having fun, and I'm gonna sit here and be good and play on the computer.
Yeah, as boys do.
As boys do. Well, Dan, it was fun.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks everybody for tuning in to Unqualified Advice. We'll see you next time. Thanks for. I don't know why I always struggle over the end, Dan. Do you got anything?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We love you all. We appreciate you. And if you can find us on the Twitters mainly at SlowVSM for Sean and at Daniel Hatke for me. Send us some DMs.